Yo, welcome everybody. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to TCR Trinity Competitive Racing.
Well, TCR TJ is the Season 13 Golden Class Champion for Trinity Competitive Racing.
Oh, let's go, dude! Yes!
Jabbar on the podium! He's on it by a 10! Gentlemen, side by side through one. And silent, and Seafreeze gets a half spin.
Let's fucking go!
Wheel bumping. DRS enable, let's do it. And Captain Blade battling it out for position. Captain Blade. Ickle, what the? Then McChicken goes around and he also makes
rewind down the front straight. Oh my god!
I gotta check the heart rate.
Why do we do this? Because of nights like this.
Go.
Yo, welcome everybody to TCR Trinity Competitive Racing, and welcome to episode number 9 of the Racing Debrief, TCR's podcast, where we combine the world of e-racing, sim racing, and TCR with real-life motorsports and Formula One, a true racing enthusiast. Listen, I'm your host, Seafreeze, and back in as my co-host, professional, as well as D'Angelo, producer behind the scenes, and we are joined with our guest here today, silver driver of the Ferrari of Speedy Gunner. Welcome, guys, to episode 9.
Good to be back. Professional speaking. It's been a few weeks, been out just due to some illness and some other stuff. So excited to be back alongside Seafreeze and then our guest tonight, Speedy Gunner. So welcome, Speedy.
Thank you for the warm welcome, and not sure what to say, but it's definitely an experience that a lot of TCR drivers want to be on the podcast, and I'm happy that I got to make it for this week.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have shown that they've shown some interest trying to get on the podcast, and we'll get there eventually. Everybody will get their turn, right? I mean, we only do one a week, so it's hard to get everybody into it. But yeah, little by little, we'll start getting everybody in. We had the F1 race today, the Italian Grand Prix. What did you guys think of it? And all, I thought coming into it, it was very exciting because qualifying was all over the place, and the grid, I've never seen a more jumbled up grid, I guess, this season, and I thought it would present itself to be a really exciting race. The start was really crazy, and then I think it kind of died down to the point where I can still sneak in a couple laps of a nap and then wake up at the end.
Nice.
That's been the trend over the last few races, unfortunately.
So, watch the first 5 laps, then take a nap for the next 20, then wake up and watch the end.
It's like, oh, Max won.
Like normal now.
Unfortunately, this one's been better than both Spa and the Dutch Grand Prix, but yeah, that's unfortunately the trend in the second half of the season.
Yeah, it was kind of it was a very strategic race, and then I was just waiting for the moment that Ferrari would just kind of choose the wrong strategy again. And of course, they gave up being in first place and just just pit way too early for the medium tire. And they put on the medium. If you're going to pit that early, at least try to put on the hard tire and try to make a one stop. But they, I guess, just botched the tire strategy as well. And then a lot of really good battles down in the field with McLaren, Alpine. You got DeVries that made his debut today in the Williams and actually finished in P9, got 2 points, and I think now is higher in the championship than Latifi, which I think is just hilarious, because then I think you got Hulkenberg as well that's down in 22nd. So
Right.
Just took one race for DeVries to outscore Latifi. Thought that was pretty funny, but yeah.
Do you think with because it was kind of a late announcement that Nick got the go ahead, because of Albon had appendix. I don't even know what. I honestly didn't even look at the news. I just saw it was a replacement.
He had a appendicitis.
What the hell is that?
It's basically.
Appendicitis is. I mean, it's something to do with your appendix. I think it's.
I'm looking up.
obviously,
I'm looking. I'm
was
looking.
that?
Like a
I'm
huge
looking up
pain.
the definition.
I think it's like a huge pain in your stomach, and you have to get it removed. Otherwise, it's
Inflammation of the appendix. So.
And well, where is that located? Because I was either gonna
in your
say
stomach
it's
somewhere.
Yeah, I don't really know where.
okay. Interesting. So he had a stomach virus. They could have just said that.
Well, it's not a stomach virus. It's something that just like you got to get it removed because it's extremely painful and pretty much out of commission of
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
you're doing.
you usually
so you get it
have to
removed.
have surgery for it, so he might be out for a while.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know. Well, watch your appendixes, or what? I guess. I didn't know that at all. I thought it was something more minor. But yeah.
It is not.
Well. Anyway, he got the seat, and he qualified pretty good. I mean, half the grid had engine or penalties, which we could also talk about that. That's something heading in to the weekend. Also, you had that at Spa. A lot of teams getting engine penalties, trying to start in the back, because it was kind of a good benefit to them to do overtaking in the race. But he qualified, I think, 8th, I believe, and drove a pretty nice race, just quiet, I feel like, and was able to pick up 9th place in his first race on short notice, which, yeah, I think he got the driver of the day as well.
Yep.
And this kind of begs the question: that second Williams seat isn't confirmed. Is it now confirmed? Do you think Nick DeVries will get that seat, or because of Latifi's money and sponsorship that he brings to the team, that he will get another year contract?
Well, he needs that seat. I mean, he proved today that he really needs it. I mean, it was pretty much his job application, as I'm sure we all heard on the comms. I think Latifi only brings in like 30 million or 40 million, which is still a lot of money. But at the end of the day, it's Formula One, and they're like, hundreds of millions of dollars for teams to, function. So, yeah, I think I mean, it's not confirmed, but I think DeVries deserves a seat. And then you have the whole, I think it's Colton Herta, and possibly gonna have a seat next year, but I don't really know too much about that.
Well,
Yeah.
the Colton Herta situation, his FIA super license is under review in the FIA offices right now, and I think they should be getting a decision within the next few weeks.
Oh, okay.
And going back to the DeVries thing, Williams has they basically have the money now where they can drop Latifi and it not matter, because I feel like they have the money to start competing for more points next season. So
well, they need to drop Latifi then. Let's go.
Well, if they last in the constructors,
Get Nick in there.
They are last. They're last in the constructors.
Yeah, but that doesn't
so
matter.
Latifi could be hurting them in that regard. If you think about it this way, so if you have Latifi in that second seat and he's bringing in $30 million, but he's not getting any points, then you're last, right? But if you could bring Nick DeVries in or another driver in that second seat, and they're not bringing in the $30 million, well, they could bring $30 million in another way. If they're scoring points, they're up the constructor order. They're actually getting probably more money that way, and then sponsorship on top. So I think this kind of was solidified in his performance today.
Well, also, if you're consistently getting points, more sponsors want to be put on your car, and that gives you, in turn, even more money on top of the sponsors that you already have. So, really, in the end, Latifi is probably costing them more money than he's really giving them in the end. So...
Yeah. Well, if that's the case, now let's say, I don't know, maybe contractually, I'm not too sure, but
his contract is up after this season. This is last year on his contract.
Well, they're not going to renew it. Let's just get him out.
Well,
just get DeVries in.
I agree. I agree. Now, if Nick DeVries is actually going in that second seat and filling in for, what's his name? Latifi. I forgot his name. He's so far in the back. Would Williams replace him now?
No,
if they are able to.
No, they're going to do it at the end of the season.
Yeah,
they'll let the contract play out, because they're honestly they're too far behind with how bad their car is. They won't catch up to 9th in the standings, which is Aston Martin. They are 19 points behind in the constructors. Aston
Yeah.
Martin would have to DNF a lot, and Williams would have to get really lucky to pass them in the constructors. So I don't think they'll drop Latifi now.
It was
Yeah,
more for just like a comfort thing. I feel like if you can get a new rookie driver in the car and get some races under his belt now when it's like not really any pressure, then you could go into next season kind of have that a little bit more experience with the team, the car, and you know where your buttons are and everything like that. But I don't see that happening. But I don't know. Maybe it could. But I guess he'll maybe pick up a few more races if Albon. But Albon, the next race was at Singapore, right? The
Yep,
Singapore.
it is
Yes.
Singapore.
I think in 2 weeks.
Oh, I
Yep,
can't wait
2
because we
weeks.
had the last time we went to Singapore was Sebastian Vettel was his last win. He was
Yep,
the last winner because of
2019.
COVID.
2019.
It's been that long?
Yep.
Yes, I
What?
can't
And
wait.
Japan too. We haven't been to Japan since 2019 either.
Oh,
Jeez.
those are gonna be
Yeah,
fun.
man, it has not felt that long. That's crazy.
Because we were supposed to
Yep.
race at Japan last year and Singapore, but COVID in both countries.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and you have a couple weeks for Albon to maybe recover a little bit, but if not, you can have a solid person there. But I thought that was a good drive from him, and I didn't really. Where's he from? Formula E, huh?
No, he was in
Or
Formula. He was in
Formula Two?
F2. Yeah, he was in F2. Then I think he did Formula E. Now he's like
yeah,
a reserve driver.
He was in Formula E at one point, anyway.
Right. Yeah. So no, that's good. That's good for him. He had a good show, and not many guys can do that, especially on their first go ahead, first go around. But then yeah, you also have the you mentioned earlier about the Gasly Colton Herta situation. Now, I think that um, it seems at first that it was going to get approved, but now looking back on it, I don't think it's going to get approved. I think the only reason it was maybe possibly going to get approved is because of the whole COVID situation, needing a driver under if they're ill, that they would maybe waive the super license for them to come in. But now that it's kind of not even a thing anymore, that they might not do that. Although I think the super license really needs to get re-looked at because the IndyCar series, if you finish the champion or P2 or P3 or whatever, it needs to be weighted a little bit more, I think, because IndyCar is a really tough competition. It's pretty much like a spec series. A lot of the any 20 guys can win on any given day, so it's even harder than it is for like a Formula series, like an F2. So I feel like it needs to be weighted a little bit more. So and then I think you might get a couple more American drivers into Formula One if IndyCar is weighted a little bit more.
Possibly. It's a good idea, for IndyCar to, raise the points or whatever you need to, get the license. Yeah, it's interesting. I agree that Colton Herta should not get this free pass and get his the Formula One super license to be able to race because it's just not the right way to do it. So, yeah,
Well,
I agree with you.
That's the problem with the FIA rules, though. You have to have 30 super license points to go under review and 40 to automatically get your super license. So it's really weird how the FIA does it, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but just because you have just 30 or 31 or 32 doesn't mean that you should be able to get it. I think it should just be a set number. I think what Seafreeze was trying to say, possibly, but just a set number. If you reach it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. Move on.
FIA big weird. So
Well, that's
make it
kind of
too
how it is
complicated
in
for everything.
F2 as well. I think if you finish 10th in the Formula 2 championship, you're not eligible to be in Formula 1. You have to finish, I think it's the top 3, but definitely the championship in
But
order
it was
to get
top
up.
5, maybe top
Could
3
be
or top
something
5.
yeah.
it might be top 7 because there was one time I
I have
thought
to
that
review.
someone in P6 that was in F2 the year before they got to F1 because they won the championship the year before. So I have no idea.
And you also have some guys, from endurance. Who was that? Brendan Hartley. was he did endurance that came over to Toro Rosso, so at the time. But now AlphaTauri looking to bring in an IndyCar driver of Colton Herta. It's kind of the perfect team to land because it's like a junior team, but in the top division. So there's expectation as the team wants to put good performances out, but it's not like they're going for a championship. So it's like the perfect place for rookies to get in, Red Bull development drivers, drivers from other categories giving it a try that have no real experience in F2 or F3 to land in AlphaTauri. I think that if it does get through, then yeah, that'll be Herta and then Gasly at Alpine, and then that would leave Ricciardo off the grid. But if they can't get Herta, they would have to find another replacement because Gasly to Alpine is.
It's
I feel
pretty
like
much a done deal, I think.
yeah, I think they're just like it's probably signed, but not released or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
I really
they
want
can't talk
Gasly
about
out.
it, you know.
They haven't press released it yet because I'm pretty sure it's a done
Mhm.
deal at this point.
I hope so. I would
Yeah, you
love
got two
to
French
see Gasly
drivers and a
Alpine.
French team. Like, what more do you want?
And then Alpine's on the rise too. They might be pretty. They might be.
I don't think they're going to be that high up the grid next season or season after.
Oh,
I think
yeah?
they're going to be losing their step a little bit.
Well, if they do get Gasly, that's going to bring in a lot of French money though too, because everybody in France will be rooting for them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well, so yeah, let's go back a little bit to the race today. So coming in, you had Leclerc on pole, Verstappen a little farther down the grid in seventh, I believe, and Hamilton was all the way at the back, as well as I think Perez and Sainz a little farther down the order as well. And I really thought it was going to be like a really exciting race because it was all jumbled up. And my reaction was like once Max got to, I think he got past Ricciardo. Now I know Ricciardo, Russell, Leclerc was on the soft tire. Ricciardo and a couple others in the midfield were on the mediums, so there was a little bit of gain there. That was why Max was able to get to them a little bit quicker. But I felt once he got to like third, but before I don't even know a couple handful of laps, it was like okay, like he's got a good car. He drove right past Russell, and I'm like, man, for some reason these new regulations, and you could tell in the last few races, and even before the summer break, the gaps between are like bigger than. I know it's only the first season of this technical regulation, but I feel like the gaps are bigger than they were. And with only 20 drivers, if you have a couple backmarker teams and a couple front runner teams, now you're really only playing with like 16 cars in the midfield. A couple retirements here and there. The field spread is all over the place. How are you going to have a good race with that? I feel like it's kind of hard with that little amount of people on the grid, or that amount of, I guess, little competitive drivers on the grid.
I think I know what you're talking about, and like I get what you're saying. Like I kind of agree with today's race. It was like the action. It wasn't as much as I predicted, but it was still a good race strategically. Like there was just some different things that happened, and like the jumbled up grid kind of did provide a little bit of action here and there, but it wasn't just like I guess the action I was looking for. But it's it's only the first year of the new regulations, and there's a lot of like variation with the designs of the arrow and kind of like the ground effect and all that. So I think it'll kind of close up in seasons to come, just like we've seen with other first year of new generations and new technical regulations and all that. But yeah, sometimes like we've had good races this season. I think today's race was just one of the races during the season that's just not as good, and so I would probably get a pretty low rating from myself. There was a few laps here and there that I did like go back to sleep and take a nap and then wake back up. Same as you, but
Yes.
yeah, Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think hopefully some other races this season, as we finish out, will be more along the lines of a more exciting race, I guess. One that we've had this season. So
Yeah, I kind of doze off, and then whenever Crofty gets
same.
all excited, he wakes me up. I'm like, "Oh, what happened?
He's
Oh,
so loud. He just
well,
screams
car's
sometimes.
just pitting. Okay, nothing out. Back to bed." I turn over, and then
Yeah.
um, yeah. No, I thought it was a good strategy race. Not enough to keep me awake. And I feel like just a championship. There's really nothing there at this point. I
Yeah,
think.
like Max is 100 points ahead of Leclerc, so
Yeah. Well, he
nothing's
has an
gonna happen.
opportunity to clinch next race at Singapore.
Yeah, math.
I think if he wins and Charles doesn't score something, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Let me go to the standings real quick.
And you already know from the first time they air, Crofty is going to be like, "Oh, if Max Verstappen finishes here and Leclerc finishes here, but hold 10 seconds, you look at 90, he could be the champion."
Yeah,
And they're
he's gonna be all
it's
over the
gonna be a whole,
calculations.
yeah, it's gonna be so annoying. You just say, don't even. He's 100 something points ahead. He needs this amount. Call it a day. It's not like, I don't know. They love to hype it up when it's like, yeah, well, what if it doesn't happen this race? It'll just happen next race.
Just be hyped about it when it does happen.
Yeah, like when he actually does cross the line and it does happen and he is confirmed the champion, then you can raise your voice. Um, but yeah, there's really nothing in it for me. And the cars at the front of the grid between Ferrari and Red Bull aren't. They're just not close enough for me to like something could happen. I feel like if there is a battle on track, it's like happens once, and it's a very simple overtake, and then that's the race, like right there. It's not. It's the cars and the teams aren't developed enough in this first year yet to really be very close together with all the data. And I think as we move on, like you said, professional, I think over the time it'll definitely get better, but we're just not there yet. And coming from a great last season, I think every race was like exciting. Every race was something was in
Something
it.
happened like every single race, Like
Oh man,
something happened if it was in the beginning or if it happened at the very end. Like something big happened almost every race in 2021.
it was like a
Like I think
true
our
Netflix
expectations are
season.
too high.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're coming off a really great season as far as like great races are concerned. And we come to this one and you know, F1's got to stay true to what they are, right? And that's with the true regulations and um how they're functioning as a sport. And like last year was great, but let's keep it like kind of rare in that regard, right? You don't want to make it into like an entertainment series. You don't want all the cars being the same. Formula One's unique because it is a formula series. All these cars are different in the regulations, and that's why you praise the teams that are really good, like Red Bull this season. And when you do get those great seasons, then it really matters more rather than like a NASCAR IndyCar where it's more of a spec series. 20, 25 different people could win on any given day. And it kind of devalues the championship because it's like kind of a luck of the draw.
Especially in NASCAR on those super speedways.
Yeah, and then you got like 30 races in NASCAR. Like the seasons are really long, and you got races every single week, and it kind of saturates like the specialness and like the rareness of the events, kind of like what Formula One has.
Yeah. We'll go to Speedy. What were your reactions to the Italian Grand Prix? Anything different or that you maybe thought of about the race today?
Well, I want to start with one thing, and it was the day that Nick DeVries was announced to be driving as a reserve for Albon. Albon put out a tweet saying the pros and cons of the surgery, and his pros were weight reduction for Singapore and cool scars, which is one of the reasons why I think he's going to be next Daniel Ricciardo in terms of comedy, but I don't think Daniel Ricciardo is going to leave the sport yet. Because if Herta can't get his license, which I don't believe he will, Tauri will. They might. I'm going to say probably, but they might look at signing Daniel Ricciardo. Although he had a tough season with McLaren, he's still a good driver, and it might be something that he would like getting back into at least a Red Bull Junior seat.
Yeah, I've debated that as well. I don't know if Daniel Ricciardo would
I
want
don't
to
see
go
him
back.
at AlphaTauri.
I don't see him
just don't.
going. I don't see it either.
I just don't see him in those colors. I don't see him in the racing suit. It just doesn't seem like Daniel Ricciardo at AlphaTauri.
And that means he's back under Red Bull's purview too.
Yeah, that's true. He's got to be under Red Bull. So unfortunately, I wish he would stay in Formula One, but I just don't see it happening. I think he's moved teams so much, and
Do you think he maybe moves to IndyCar or something, or do you think he's done?
he might move to IndyCar, but I don't think he's going to do like a Grosjean or anybody else. Yeah, Ericsson is another one. Yeah,
I think for him going back to AlphaTauri, I feel like because it was his decision to leave Red Bull to begin with, to go to Renault.
And like that's when it all went downhill, in my opinion.
And if he returns back, I feel like Helmut Marko and Christian Horner is like, I told you so. And I don't know. I mean, their relationship is still pretty good. The potential could be there, right? I mean, like, all right, you go to AlphaTauri, you have a decent season. You know, whenever they cut ties with Perez, you can be back in Red Bull, maybe with Verstappen. But it's like that's why you left. And if you're not, if Ricciardo really needs to be really in tune with his car, where he's really comfortable, I just don't see him having that edge on Verstappen, who's been there since 2016. So, yeah, I don't see him going that route. If Gasly stayed at AlphaTauri and he went to Alpine, I can see that. Because there was a little conflict with him leaving with that. So I think his name was Cyril. I don't know if he's still there. I don't think so.
No, he's not. He left.
He got fired.
Yeah,
he got fired because Daniel left.
Right. So there's a little conflict there, but now that it's rebranded as Alpine, I think that there's an opportunity there. But if not, I don't see him being in it. I actually see him. I could see him doing some IndyCar, but I could also see him jumping in. I think the team of Trackhouse and doing a few NASCAR road course races, not full time, but similar to what Kimi Raikkonen did at Watkins Glen last month.
That'd be interesting.
I think you could see the passion he has for NASCAR and American sports of IndyCar and NASCAR together. And I don't know if a lower team would sign him full time for ovals and everything. If that's the route he wants to go, there's an opportunity for him.
What about
road course for sure?
What about IMSA? What do you guys think if he could do IMSA?
Yeah, he could do IMSA. He could also do V8 supercars too. Maybe back in Australia. I think that'd be
Australia V8 series.
Yeah,
I feel like the door is always open for almost any motorsport driver for that, in my opinion. There's a lot of teams that are, needing drivers for endurance stuff. But I don't know. I feel like it's definitely a downgrade. I feel like IndyCar and NASCAR, it's definitely a downgrade to Formula One as far as I guess pay wise. But
it's only because it's
the experience.
It's only in one country, so.
Yeah, but I think that he'd have a blast there in IndyCar, and he could live it because he's already mentioned in many interviews that he barely lives in Australia. He pretty much lives in America.
Yeah, I think he has a house in LA.
He's an American. He's an American now.
He's an American. He has a house in LA, dude. Every celebrity, every athlete has a house in LA. It's just,
at least one.
Yeah, pretty much.
I
Lewis-
think he was. I
Lewis
saw a
has-
video on his YouTube channel, Ricardo. He was, I think, hiking in Montana, possibly, and I think it was Montana. I'm like, what's he doing out in Montana? Then I was like, I think later in that video, he was like, yeah, I'm barely in Australia. I live in America, so I feel like that schedule would be a lot better for him. But if he then would return to F1, I feel like it would just be more at a mid-level grade. It's really Daniel Ricciardo's stock as a driver was really good back when he was in Red Bull. It was still pretty good at Renault as well. And it's like, man,
Now it's not though.
how come this guy just doesn't have that opportunity to go to a front winning team? Because if you ask me, if he's given the right stuff, he's a championship caliber race winning driver. And we're gonna miss out on that. Man, I loved when I saw those
He just
crazy wins
hasn't
that he
performed
had.
though, man. Like he just has not performed ever since he left Red Bull. Ever since really he left Renault and like went to McLaren. Like that car is kind of wonky. It operates in a very weird way that Lando Norris can kind of tame, and that doesn't really help Ricardo's case. But I think he just lost his mojo. It just hasn't really had that extra spark that made him what we know him as from Red Bull.
Well, that was sorry to cut you
yeah.
off, but that was kind of the reason
No,
he
you're fine.
left Red Bull was because they favored the car towards Max.
He was still quick though.
2018.
Like he wasn't completely off him though. He was still matching him and still able to compete with them.
But you could tell the way that he even said the way they were making the car develop, like the upgrades and stuff. They were definitely more towards Max's liking in 2018.
For sure, yeah. But he was still able to like keep up and all that. Like he was able to drive that car and be really quick. Whereas now he's not able to like really take a car and like do anything with it. Like
And make it his own.
Yeah, he doesn't have that like instinct and like that setup, I guess, like guru-ness on how to like just drag a car and like make it good, Like I haven't seen him really do that.
That's a good word, guru-ness.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep that.
Very interesting.
I thought he was good today until his
Car
retirement.
shit on him.
Yeah, it seems like every time this
Italy.
season he's been doing pretty well in the races. Like his car just
It just
completely craps up on him.
The engine just gives.
Yeah.
I also find like the second part of the season is usually when he starts to pick up the results.
Mhm.
So we'll see if he can continue at least because I thought he drove pretty strong today. Norris I don't know where he finished, but I remember seeing
was
the
seventh.
start that he had, which was terrible. He got the anti-stall, and I didn't know which one it was. I didn't know if it was Ricciardo or Norris because I didn't know who was starting on what side. And then he said it was Norris that bogged down at the start. But actually, because earlier I was saying we jumping into the race. It's a very jumbled race, and that was because of the penalties. How do you think F1 should be doing the grid penalties, and should it be broadcasted a little bit more in qualifying? Because if half the grid is getting an engine penalty or a penalty of some sort, in qualifying doesn't really mean anything because you don't know where everyone's starting. So how do you what options could they implement to maybe fix it? Because if 10 people do an engine penalty, some guy could be starting 11th, and that's not a big penalty. Like it's only 11th. So should they be starting from the pit lane? Should it be like you can't do it back-to-back races, or like I don't know, like how do we go around that? Because you obviously always get grid penalties at Belgium and Italy, and
A
some
lot
of those
of
tracks like that.
power tracks. Definitely.
Yeah, but how do we get around that? Because it's kind of annoying, I think.
I really don't think there's a way to get around that because I think because the penalties are you change any engine component that you don't have allocated. It's 5 places. Gearbox is 10. Then if you change the whole engine, it's back of the grid. barring other penalties. So I really don't think there's any really way to kind of change that and make it better, because I feel like it's kind of it's already in that gray area already, and if you change it, it'll probably put it even more deeper in that gray area.
Yeah, for
Professional
me,
Speedy, any ideas?
yeah, because I've thought about this before. It's really only in Belgium and Italy that we see this, like, 8 to 10 drivers taking an engine penalty, and it's mainly Italy anyway. So it's one race or one track out of 22 or 23, and um, we have these penalties, like D'Angelo was saying, and it's mainly because of how much, I guess, parts these teams are allocated at the beginning of the season.
By the
If
FIA.
the limit, yeah, by the FIA, if the limit wasn't so low, we wouldn't have so many drivers at one particular race taking engine penalties or taking engines. If it was 5 engines or 5 or 6 transmissions like it used to be a few years ago, we wouldn't have the issues that we saw today. But it's the rules that the drivers and teams have to deal with, and I think last year and especially this year we've seen that Italy is just that track that teams do it at. So it's it just it's not going to get fixed, and I think you have to deal with it.
And Speedy, any ideas on the penalties entering qualifying in the race?
I'm with, I believe it was D'Angelo that said this. Shouldn't be changed because there's really nothing you can change. It's just like you said, in a gray area. If you change it anymore, you'll probably just worsen the sport a bit. I don't think it can be changed at all. I think where it is right now is fine, and as Professional said, I believe it was, it's really just Monza, sometimes Belgium, has these out of 23 races. So there's no point in making a change for these 2 specific tracks.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. My only suggestion would be is when you're watching the qualifying, I feel like next to everybody's name, there should be what penalty they are getting, and maybe they don't know until after quali if they're actually going to do a part or whatever. But maybe I think
Be
it
like a
does need to be.
+5 or +10 maybe,
Yeah.
or like
So
BOTG, and just put that because like who knows if it's going to be an engine or transmission or ICU or the MGUK or whatever it is. Like just put
yeah,
+5, +10,
because I think
+20.
I was watching a WTF1 video, and I think they were mentioning, and I totally agree. If an avid motorsport fan, Formula One fan like us, have no idea where these drivers are starting, how the hell is a casual viewer? That might be as imagine.
Exactly.
Can you imagine if this was their
They're
first
not. They're
race
not
that
going to
they
know. Dude, they would
they
be
ever
so
watched
lost. They'd be,
qualifying?
yeah, like, they wouldn't know what was happening. Absolutely not.
So they definitely need to be a little bit more specific on the graphic display and quality. This way, people know, even as a casual viewer, what's
Agreed.
happening, and then also why do they have a penalty? Was it because Sonoda, I think, had a penalty for ignoring a yellow flag and getting too many reprimands, and that's why he had a little bit of a grid penalty? Versus, it's a replacement of a part. But I'm even confused. I didn't know where they were starting until I think Formula One tweeted out that, oh, this is the grid. Oh, thanks. Yeah, we should know that by the end of qualifying, more particularly. But yeah, it is what it is. But I think it's kind of a unique penalty, especially in Formula One, because like for a NASCAR's sake, as an example, if they take a penalty, they start at the back of the grid. The race is 400 laps anyway. It doesn't matter where you start. So Formula One, depending on the track, kind of does. Um, but it's nice to go to these tracks and have a little bit of an implication of like, oh, he's starting at the back, and how does that impact the race and the chances of that driver possibly winning or not? But also, I was gonna say the Ferrari. I wanted to mention because I really like the livery of Ferrari. The one thing I did like that they've done this week is the livery. Now, I disagree with the yellow by the engine cover, but for the one-off 75-year anniversary or whatever they're celebrating, I could live with it. But if they had the yellow worded Ferrari on the back wing,
I was gonna say that, like, that looked legit. Like, if they just had that Ferrari on the rear wing, I'd be okay with that. That'd be pretty awesome. But yeah, take away
yeah.
the yellow on the engine cover because kind of reminded me of McDonald's a little bit.
Yeah, and I would honestly, I actually like the yellow racing suits over the McDonald's racing suits that they have. The red and the black
Oh
with
yeah, yeah.
with the
Well,
McDonald's.
with the yellow accents.
Yeah.
Yep.
Get rid of those suits. You could do
Like a Ronald
the
McDonald.
suits. But if they just had Ferrari on the back wing with the yellow and the red, the nice livery that they have this year, oh, that would pop so nice.
I would be down with that.
I kind of.
So sorry.
Go ahead.
With the Ferrari livery, I can't do graphic design like editing liveries on mobile to the greatest extent, but I had in my mind going around and around a full yellow Ferrari car with a Red Bull styled prancing horse, like where the Red Bull logo is on the Red Bull car, but they put their prancing horse there as a different design, and then have the front and back wings black with the yellow text. I think that would have maybe stood out more with the crowd because a lot of people were hoping for a full yellow Ferrari.
Could be.
Oh man, like if
Yeah,
they went with the
that
full
would
yellow
be-
Ferrari, that would be. I don't think I would be able to handle that. That would
No.
be.
No, everyone was making
maybe
jokes
a bit
about
much.
that too. Everyone was making jokes about that too, putting all the team members in minion suits.
Oh no, no, no! Don't do that.
Yeah. If someone was watching, if someone didn't watch a F1 race since 2019, they would have thought Renault was back on the grid.
Oh,
yeah.
Renault has returned.
I mean,
Yeah, no, it's pretty good.
They're acting like they're Renault from 2019.
Yeah.
So one thing that I do want to talk about is the safety car at the end.
Yes, definitely.
What did you guys think about the safety car? Like, was it handled the right way? And like, where was the safety car on broadcast for like 4 laps? I'm like, why are the cars just going around and the track? Where's the safety car? The broadcast wasn't showing it. But I think they could have handled it a bit differently. But they did follow the rules the right way, so that was another thing. Like people were arguing about, like, yeah, it stayed out really long, and they should have, taken action like before. But if this was like the championship decider, like Abu Dhabi last season, this could have completely changed the result of the championship. So, yeah, I thought it was interesting how it played out today.
Yeah. So once I heard that that was Ricciardo's car and stranded on the side. Once I saw that and Crofty got all excited and safety car, I stood up a little bit. That's when I woke up. And I'm like, oh, what's going on? I saw the lap numbers like 48, 49 to 53. I'm like, okay, let's see if they get this thing back rolling. At first, I thought it'd be like, oh, they're definitely going to get back going again. All they have to do is roll the car backwards into the thing. Although it was kind of wedged into the dirt and everything, and they needed to get the claw out and
It was also
pick up the car.
It was also gear locked too. The car was, so they couldn't really move it.
Ah, okay. So yeah,
that was the issue. Okay.
Yeah, that's why.
So then they
landed.
definitely needed it.
Yeah.
So once I saw that, I'm like, okay, it does take some time to communicate that and get the crane over. So I'm not faulting the delay there. But you actually asked me that right before we went live on the podcast, D'Angelo, and you asked me. I said, well, I can't give it all away. We have the podcast coming up. So you said, give me 3 words, and I said, the correct call. I think That's how the rule book's supposed to be. So what? The race ended on the safety car. That's the correct call. That's what's in it, right? I mean that is how it was supposed to be played out. And Crofty and Brundle were mentioning, "Whoa, what happened? Maybe you do a red flag." Red flags are not for an entertainment purpose. Red flags are for we have to red flag it because there's a big safety reason.
Damage to the
Yeah.
walls or a lot of water.
Serious injury, big wreck, a lot of debris, something that we know is going to take a long time to get moved out of the way or cleaned up or whatever the incident be. In that case, then you put the red flag out. But you're not going to suggest, oh, let's put a red flag because there's a handful of laps and everybody could start on the grid. That's gimmicky. And that should never happen. The red flag is there for one purpose, and it really should be a rare situation. You shouldn't have a red flag just because it's at the end of the race and you're like, oh, but we have to get back going. No, we don't. You don't have to get back going. if you red flag that, or if you rush the process to put one lap back in, then we're looking at Abu Dhabi last year, and we're looking at a bunch of red flag situations of last season as well, all for the entertainment factor. And that's not how that should be functioning at all. The red flag should be for safety and big wrecks that need something needs to be repaired, and a safety car will put out. And I thought that maybe sometimes they'll do it like this as well. They'll put a local yellow, then they'll put a VSC just to localize everything, and then they'll be like, oh, do we really need a safety car? Then they'll put the safety car out, and then sometimes they'll even go red flag. We saw that at Jeddah last year when Mick Schumacher hit into the barrier and they had to replace it. They didn't know they had to replace the barrier or fix it or make sure it's fixed until they got there and be like, oh, we do have to red flag this. And that's when Max got the track position because he was able to do the tires into the red flag, and that's what the excitement was. But I thought it was handled perfect, and I would have loved it to go back green, but that's not how Formula One is. Formula One's supposed to be the pinnacle of motorsport, and they're supposed to be a Formula Series with professional rules that are followed. And I thought that was done today. If you want a gimmick, you could go to NASCAR. You can go maybe to IndyCar, or something other than that. But I thought it was fine.
Well said. I definitely agree with everything.
Yeah, I mean,
I couldn't really say it a different way or a better way. So, I agree as well, like how it was handled, and it took a while to do all that, but if that's what they're gonna do, then follow the rules. And personally, I'm glad there wasn't a red flag, because just to have a standing like restart that close to the end of the race doesn't feel right. And I feel it kind of skews the results, or could skew the results pretty easily. So, yeah, just like Seafree said, it was handled the right way, and unfortunately, there was no green flags at the end, but that's what it was.
Yeah,
even to go back for one lap, I feel like is unless laps allowed, unless. But if they had to rush their process for one lap, I feel like is also gimmicky. Like
Yeah.
if they were to rush that and didn't let the blue flag cars go, and then they'll be stuck in the middle of the pack just to go green again. Nah, that's not the right way. Like, you need as many laps as you need, and then if that's it, that's it. Now, I have been thinking about a solution to kind of prevent something from happening. And I've been thinking about this today a little bit once that happened this morning. So NASCAR has their overtime rule that is I really like the rule, and it kind of goes as follows. Once the leader crosses the line, now this can't fully relate to Formula One, but it could be a modified version I'll get to. Once the leader crosses the start-finish line to grab the white flag, the next flag ends the race. So if there's a yellow flag, it's end. If it's checkered flag, it's ended. If it's red flag, it's ended. But if there's 2 laps to go and there's a yellow flag, they restart and then they have green, white checkered start again, and the
Round
same
2.
rules applied. And that could go for as many rounds as possible. There's no end to it. The difference is NASCAR can go in the pits and they can refuel. IndyCar, I don't know how their procedure is, but they could also refuel. The Formula One cars, you can't refuel them. Whatever fuel's in there is in there, and that's why there's a limit to the amount of laps. So you can't just say, okay, there's a yellow flag, then let's extend it, right? Let's give them 2 extra laps. Let's do an overtime. You can't do that. They don't have enough fuel in the car. So I feel like at a certain point, with X amount of laps to go, maybe 5 laps. If there's 5 laps or less, unless it's the final lap, if it's the final lap, then you just go to the end. But if it's lap 2, 3, 4, or 5 towards the end, immediately you can't put a safety car out. It has to be let's call it a different color. What flag? I don't think there's purple flags in Formula One, is there?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
So you throw the purple flag, and what does this mean? It's kind of acts as a red flag, but when they get back going, they don't do a standing start. They do it behind the safety car, single file. So you throw the flag out, 5 laps left or whatever, stops the race immediately. You go into the pits, they clean up however long it takes, and then you just go out of the pits and under safety car and do one, final lap or however many to get to the end, rather than doing a safety car, rushing the process, or doing a red flag and then starting on the grid doing a grid start, which I think is gimmicky. But if they could start behind the safety car and just do single file, I think that's fair. I don't like the grid start after a red flag. I don't like that. There should be one start. That's the first 5 red lights. We shouldn't be 5 red lighting and away we go all the entire race. I don't like that.
Or we can still do the red flag and the restart thing, but only till a certain limit. Like only within the first, say 15 laps or 20 laps of a race, or even 10 laps of a race. If it's after that, if it's lap 11 or onwards, and there's a red flag, then it should be a different type of restart. But I do like what happened at Jeddah. I think it was last season, right? Yeah, 2021.
Yeah.
It was the first lap and we had to have a red flag. So yeah, restart it. And then I think we had to have another restart because it was lap 2 or lap 1 again. So, but if it's when that lap, first 10 lap window, I think it's all right. But after that, yeah, do a different type of restart, like a single file, like you said, behind a safety car or whatever.
Yeah, or maybe it could be first half the race. It could be a regular, what you said, that 5 red light start again, and then after second half, it's just regular safety car or whatever. Because I don't know, I don't remember too many red flags, but I don't remember them ever starting from the grid light. They used to hit the red flag, you go in the pits, and then you
Used to
start
be
back under
single
safety
file.
car.
Yeah, it used to be single file restart.
And one of the races, I don't remember the first race they implemented this, but I remember everyone was confused. Like, we're doing a standing start?
Well, yeah,
And then
it was
everyone looked
completely
at
new.
the
It was only a few years ago too. I think it was 2017, 2018, maybe even after that, maybe 2019 actually.
No,
So it's been very recent in
I think
time.
it could have been 19, but I think it was 2020, the COVID year.
Possibly. I think everybody just forgot.
With maybe, I don't know if it was Mugello or I don't know what race, but then they looked at the rule and they're like, oh yeah, we could do a standing start. And then ever since then, they're like, oh, this is more entertaining. Let's start from, another 5 red lights. And yes, it's entertaining. Don't get me wrong, but I
But
think
why?
it's not needed. I think you could just start on your safety car and go single file and do that. I don't know.
Mhm.
I guess a personal thing, but
Yeah, I guess it just depends.
I would like it to be one or the other though. Just so that's the rule. It's not like, oh, today we feel like starting from the grid again. Oh, and then tomorrow it's going to be, oh, we're
Well,
going to
yeah,
do a
I'm sure
safety
whatever
car.
rule it is going to be the same. It's not going to vary from track to track or from round to round. It'll be the same for the whole season.
Now, what did you think about now the way they applied the safety car today? Obviously, that reminded us all about Abu Dhabi last season. What are your
Yeah, yeah.
thoughts still today about of that situation?
What like the situation today, like I already mentioned earlier, was I think the correct one. Like you said earlier, they deployed it the right way. They if it took a while to do it, it took a while to do it. But yeah, I don't think anything more to add on that.
D'Angelo or Speedy, any more thoughts on last season's safety car and also the procedure?
Well,
Oh, like if we're talking about last season,
Yeah.
it could have. I mean, it's already in the past. Like, what are we gonna do? I mean, we
Yeah.
keep on talking about it. Almost a year. Yeah, it's gonna be almost a year out, and it's like whatever happened happened. Today was the right way to do a safety car procedure, no matter how long or how quickly it's cleaned up, and just follow the rules. That's what happens.
Yeah, today was definitely the right way to do it. They waited as long as they could before they sent it out because if I feel like if the marshals were able to get it off the car off the track pretty quickly, it probably at at the most would have been a VSC if they were able to get the car off the track quickly. But when the steward saw that they couldn't race control throughout the full safety car, so it was definitely the right call.
Yeah, for sure. And I always think back to last season, and it's like, man, I still can't believe that happened. It was like a true, and I'm not to clarify for those that are listening. I am not a Mercedes or Red Bull fan, Lewis Hamilton or Max Verstappen fan, and I just kind of watch them and kind of see how it went. That's how last season went for me. So I'm not on the Hamilton fan page or the Max Verstappen fan page as well. But it just makes me think about that situation of how that all ended up and how you crown the champion should be, yeah, and how you conduct the rules and regulations needs to be by the book. And there was an interview that Sky Sports did, and they asked Lewis about the incident today, and he said that it always brings memories back. That is the rule that it should be, right? So only one time in the history of the sport that they haven't done the rule. So it's still just a weird nightmare kind of situation of I don't think anyone wanted it to end that way. And honestly, if they ended the championship last season like it did today, yes, people would be mad if you're a Max fan or and be happy if you're a Lewis fan, but that's how it should have played out. So and I'm happy with it because it's like, oh, okay, you went by the rules. You can't bend them. So you could totally understand that, but yeah, hopefully they figure something out because you definitely don't want that to be. Although I don't know the name of the what's his the lead director, the steward director, but the definitely different guy from last year, Massey. Uh, but whoever it is, I don't know if D'Angelo could Google it for me. Uh, I think he's been doing a good job this season as far as the stewarding and maybe not the stewarding, but the flag rules, and when safety cars should be put out and when they come in and all that stuff. But yeah, I think that'll kind of end up on the F1 side of things. So we do have a silver driver here today of Speedy Gunner in the Ferrari. Last week was Azerbaijan Grand Prix for TCR, and this week it will be Britain for the British Grand Prix. And Speedy, it's your first season in Silver Class and in TCR, and I feel like in the off season, a lot of people doubted you. A lot of people didn't think you were worthy to be on the grid, and I think you definitely told them off in the first few races because you've had a streak of couple top fives at Australia. You finished finished the race crossing the line first, but with penalties, demoted you off the podium, unfortunately. So uh, unable to get the first podium yet, but you got first few top fives, sitting decently in the championship. So how has you know the start of your season been?
Well, the start of my season has been pretty good. Brazil, um, that was definitely a big strategy mess up from me, but then again, it's also, well, it is my fault for trusting Mark with the weather predictions because Mark told me it was going to dry up near the end of the race, which is why I tried to stay out on the inters. Till the point where I just couldn't drive the car anymore and I had to come in for the wets. Around Japan, it was a little more strugglesome for me, where I also, on the last couple laps, accidentally threw my car into neutral. And then going to Australia, I got a pit lane speeding penalty for going about 5 kph over the speed limit, because the cars don't always stop in this game. And I got a time penalty for my second warning under VSC, I believe it was, for narrowly cutting the corner on accident. But that, after the Australian GP weekend, that made me want to make a meme over it, and it's called The Three Horsemen of Speedy Not Getting a Podium, and it showed rain, the neutral gear, and time penalties. So, and then this week, the newest edition is I Am an Idiot by Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, you did. You had first DNF of the season, breaking your top five streak at Baku, crashing into the castle section. For those unaware, I also do believe under safety car conditions.
No,
Or no,
I think
no,
it was
wasn't. You created it. Yeah, yeah. Although, what was it? I feel like it was. I feel like
it
it
was
safety
green
car.
at the time, but
Yeah.
it became safety car after I crashed. Because what it looked like on my screen is I was going to make the corner perfectly, and then my car, for some reason, just snaps to the right and goes into the wall. And I don't know why that happened. I didn't see it from your guys' point of view, if maybe I did hit the wall, but on my screen, it didn't look like I hit the wall. And, it was definitely a pain, but every George Russell does need it. And I remember hearing you comment about how I'm doing a George Russell, and I thought my first DNF was going to be at Silverstone, but nope. So now, after I've already done a league race at Silverstone, I have a setup ready, and Omega is the person. I give Omega my setups, and sometimes that's why he wrecks, because my setups are usually a little slidier than most, and that's why he crashed out around Australia. And I have a setup already built. I'm going to get some practice in when I can, probably tomorrow. But around Silverstone will definitely be fun, because although it isn't my best track, it's still a fun track for me, and I know there's a couple other silver drivers, we were talking about it, and they also have some struggles with it. So I think I should be able to get back into my top 5 paying positions, but it will definitely be a struggle, and with the struggles of both the Alfa Romeo and Red Bull team, it has helped me a lot. Mercedes have been on top form recently with Rafa and then Oreo getting his first race finish, which me and CJ did not think was going to happen. Because we were talking about that the other day, and it's definitely going to be a more fun race for me than Azerbaijan, because Azerbaijan I just feel afraid to actually drive the car because of how close the track is. But then we look at tracks like Singapore, where I'll even sometimes run low wings and do fine. Like, there was
Well, it is
one
a street circuit. That's why the walls are
Yeah.
closed. Yeah.
There was one open lobby race where I was running 0-0 wings and I finished like P7 or something. And I'm not going to do that at the actual league race because it was
No,
only
you
5
shouldn't.
lappers.
Yeah, you definitely should not run 0-0 at Britain.
Oh, Singapore.
Oh, Singapore. My bad. My bad. Or definitely don't do that either.
But I'm definitely excited for this weekend, or well, not this weekend, but this Tuesday.
Yep.
As
8:45 p.m. Eastern. Me and D'Angelo will be there, right, D'Angelo?
Oh yeah,
Commentating.
the
Absolutely.
commentator bros.
D'Angelo, the Kool-Aid Man. Camden, what was it? El Loco Luca? I believe that's what Cody gave him, and then I gave TJ what was it? TPB and J.
When did you give these? I like these. When did you give these names
Australia.
to those two? Australia? Where? In the chat or something?
Yeah, it would have been in the YouTube live chat.
Okay. Oh, that's like, what was TJ's again? I'm gonna call him that.
PB and PB and well, it didn't have the T, but it was PB and J, or I can't remember what it was. It might have been TPB and J.
Okay.
But
That's funny.
yeah.
Now, just to clarify, now your wreck at Baku, it actually was. I looked back because I thought it was under safety car that you wrecked out.
Was it?
Yes, it was. And
I thought it was under green.
No, so the safety car was still out. I think it was for, I believe, I'm gonna rewind it here.
Probably.
No, I think it was for Blinn Machine.
Yeah. I was going
the
to say
final
Matt
braking
Martinez,
zone.
but then I was going to say Matt Martinez, but then I remembered that Blinn did retire, and I finished ahead of Blinn. So with all the DNFs, I think we had six,
It was a lot of
seven. I think we had 6 official drivers, maybe even 5 actually finishing, with 2 ghosts, or 2 or 1 ghosts, because people lagged out, which has definitely been a problem with crossplay recently. And a couple members think it's streaming, but a lot of people would stream before crossplay. Because even during the preseason and the first 2 races, there was no crossplay. And there was no lagging out. Everyone had green to greenish yellow ping, and it wasn't like struggling for anyone because crossplay. Now you have to connect these 3 different yes devices to a single set of servers to actually have them running, and then you've got 3 times as many platforms, systems, devices running on this one set of servers, and it's just overloading the servers, which is causing the bad ping.
Now, I will kind of disagree with you in a little bit on one portion. Now, I will get back to all those DNFs, but since you brought this crossplay up, I wanted to mention something about it. Now, I will agree that the like when you go into the lobby, the pings for all the drivers are usually yellow to red as far as what it's showing. But and there are, I guess, more disconnects than it was prior. Although I will firmly stay on this as my viewpoint. The drivers that are disconnecting have been, in my case, in my viewpoint, have been drivers that have been disconnecting for seasons. And I think it's more of an individual internet case, as far as maybe your internet's not good, maybe you're not on the Ethernet board, maybe you're streaming and you're on Wi-Fi and you got shitty ass Wi-Fi at McDonald's, and that's why you can't stay in the lobby. Now I will say,
bingo, you won.
Thank you.
McDonald's didn't have the worst internet, by the way. I think it was proven Taco Bell had the worst internet.
Oh, okay. So there you go. Don't go to Taco Bell, D'Angelo.
Hey, Taco Bell be hitting at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday after silver class. After silver class,
10 p.m. or at later. The lines at Taco Bell, 10 p.m. or later, are insane.
100%.
Don't go, and I don't go. I don't eat Taco Bell.
Well, because Taco Bell has been described as a place for
it's horse meat.
People coming home from late work. Also, I love how he went from talking about Formula One to talking about a restaurant franchise. So,
well, that's just what happens when we talk about the shit show that is silver class. Literally.
Literally taco meat just right on the Baku street circuit. But but about the crossplay. So I really think that's the issue that I mentioned. Now, are there a few screen freezes? Yes, maybe here or there. The connection between drivers, I feel like if your connection's strong, I had no issues whatsoever at Baku, and the ones we've done crossplay at. And it's literally been the only driver that I did have a little disconnect issue with was Dreamsy, and he's racing from Germany. So, and it wasn't like terrible. Professional and D'Angelo and myself and those who raced in seasons prior, this is nothing compared to what it was in 2016. This is nothing to where it was on 2017 or 2018 with the lag and desync. Do you remember, Professional, how many incidents there were on 2018 game? And you look at both incidents.
2019
like,
too.
These guys, this is desync. This driver versus this driver, they're not even on the same portion of the track. That's how bad it was.
Yeah, it's fine this game, and people just complain too much because I guess in other games or whatever, like maybe some like FPS games or whatever, it's not like what we have.
Or
but
even,
it's so much better than years ago.
Even other racing games, GT Sport. GT Sport's probably the best one.
It's just a bit different, but it doesn't mean that it's terrible or bad, or that people should quit over it or like rage over it. It's like I think we're way past that.
You can tell it's gotten better. It's gotten better definitely because of the EA budget, and it's just going to continue to get better.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to continue to get better. Yep.
Yeah, but I don't think it's any case to where we're like, oh, we have to stop it. I don't see really any issue. I really think it's individual internet's connection. The internets. You got to do the internets. You got to do the tweets. I really think that's the issue. And now I will say the big issue with crossplay is getting the damn drivers into the lobby.
I agree.
Although,
Yeah.
if that is worth a little bit of stress so that we can get some drivers in on different platforms. We've seen returns from Segrist and Ben Swerven and GTR Lion. I could race on either platform, but you're starting to see some former returning drivers, some new drivers, and that is more priority than anything else. Now, all those glitches as well. Those are doesn't matter if you crossplay on, you crossplay off. Doesn't matter. All those glitches, and honestly, the glitches in this game is nothing near where it
Nothing to what
was
we had
back
before in
then.
2019. So
So everybody could just shut up, play the game,
just
and
race.
race.
Yeah, exactly. Just
Literally,
race and
you're
have
racing
fun.
on an online game. Like, those things are going to happen. Will they get fixed? I hope so. But if not, it it's not that bad. Like, I figured out a new glitch at Baku because I got a drive-through penalty from it, and now going forward, I will try to look out for that glitch and prevent it. But you have to really obsess about the game to where you know all the little minor details of glitches, and so you can avoid them. Any mishaps in the tracks, how the game applies it. You kind of have to read, and it's unfortunate that we do have to race like that, but it's just how it has to be.
Yeah, but everybody is on the same playing field. And if everybody is on the same playing field playing the same game with the same glitches and the same issues, it you know, sorry, but that's just what it is, and it's the driver who can adapt to all these weird glitches and situations the best that's gonna come out on top or maybe just enjoy the game a bit more.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, all those issues, I wish they would get fixed, and I hope they get fixed. We shouldn't be driving on a game like this that does have glitches, but it happens. But for those blaming crossplay as the issue, that's not the issue. For the glitches and other things there, it's not. People just like to blame crossplay because it's like, no, that's not it. Sorry, try again. But I want to get back to the silver race a little bit. We saw. I'm looking at it now
A lot
on,
of DNS.
and I did mention on stream I'd roast a few. So I have to put that back on my promise here. So
Oh God, who are you doing first?
everybody, it doesn't matter. We go random. So we had 18 drivers show up for the silver race. 7 finished the race, and of those 7, only 6 are eligible because Seegers had a disconnect. So he was an AI car. Now that's maybe one of those guys who was playing at McDonald's or Taco Bell, but he only had 6 finishers in this race. So I don't know. I feel like now of everyone in here, the only person who DNF'd was Speedy. But D'Angelo, you won in golden. We both podiumed, professional and I, in platinum, second and third. Myself then professional, and we were able to finish the race. But we saw a bunch of DNFs at Baku all throughout the class, all throughout the league. Why? And a lot of them were individual wreck outs. Now, I will say, Baku's a difficult track. I said it on stream when I was commentating. You have the long streets, low downforce of the straightaways in the first sector, and then the higher downforce when you go into the old castle section part of the town.
The middle sector.
The middle sector, yeah, middle sector, a big portion of sector 2. So the setup does depend in there because you got to know what way you're going. It's not like you're going to Singapore and you're going high downforce.
50
Or it's not like,
wings.
yeah, it's not like you're going to Jeddah and you're going to go, middle to low downforce because it's more of a higher speed street circuit. This
Sweeping
one's
corner.
kind of like right in the middle. How do you approach it? But why? I think this game's pretty hard, but why so many individual mistakes in DNFs? Because we saw Blend Machine spin it on the exit of turn 16. You saw obviously Speedy, and he mentioned earlier in the castle section. You had Nando. I was on board with him, I think, in the stream. Turn 3, he just locked up right into the wall. A few others. Rafa Hulk, you remember Rafa D'Angelo? His full front wing was off, and he goes
Yep.
into turn 15. He locks it, goes straight into the wall, which
Yep.
was also done by Bats Plus and Platinum on the opening lap. So why is it? I mean, Baku's a difficult track, but like, why this many?
Well, I want to say, from my experience, anyways, first of all, I didn't have a lot of time to practice because everything is starting back up again. But it's also a lot of these guys' first times, including me, running Baku on the new game. So it's going to be difficult, and some people could get more practice in than others. And with 18, 19, 20 drivers, you can't predict what they're going to do. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to do wrong strategies. You're just, especially with how the new car drives, and as you said, the setups, causing difficulties as well. I definitely think that the reason is because of the close walls included with the newer cars, as well as the raised up and changed curbs. It caused some more chaos than what we usually get, or what you guys usually get, as this is my first season.
Mhm. Yeah, no, good point. I mean, a lot of drivers' first season, um, still kind of relatively new into the season with the new cars. Could be the curbs, the difference of how this new car works with the setup. But professional, how do you see it in your eyes?
I think this game is it's more sensitive than previous games. But on this particular track, I feel it's people not able to do multiple laps. Like I think 5 to 10 laps or even more than that, just consistently lap after lap, by not pushing the car too much. If you can drive at say 100% or say 95% in a quali session or like a quali lap, and you're really going to the limit, you can't do that for 10 to 15 laps just over and over, especially if you don't have the experience of doing leagues, or if you're a new league racer, just new to TCR, or just new to doing these 50% races. But it's really hard to do, to be really consistent lap after lap, especially when the only thing you know how to do is to push out 100% on a quali lap, because you do TT or only do like 2 or 3 lap little stints here and there, and you're pushing. Where in the race you have to dial it back to maybe 80%, 85%, and not push all the time and leave some margin on the table. I think it's more about leaving margin on the table because it is a street circuit. It is really difficult. You don't have, runoffs here and there like Silverstone is completely opposite of Baku and for Singapore. And so I think it's just younger drivers, more I think inexperienced drivers don't have the experience, the mindset just to kind of back off and to be okay with not, extracting the maximum every single lap. I think that's really where it comes from.
Yeah, no, great explanation. I totally agree, 100%. Yeah, I mean, we'll leave it there. We're going to Britain now this week, so Silver should be better. But the big
Should.
takeaway should air quotes. The
Air quotes.
takeaway for Silver is that
Yeah.
it wasn't a lot of incidents with each other, which is a good thing. It's individual driver mistakes. They're able to
Yep.
drive side by side. I think the only incident we really had major was Turkey and Omega on one of the safety car restarts, which we kind of got a glimpse of.
Yeah, we didn't really
And
see
maybe
that.
other little things here and there, but it wasn't like, a big wreck that it was a stupid move by a driver, took out half the grid, or multiple incidents of that which took out multiple drivers. It was a lot of individual mistakes, which is kind of a good thing, because that means the racing craft is there, but just the knowledge of the cars in silver class, we're not expected to be to know it all, I guess. You kind of get off the hook. Now we're gonna start moving up. So now we go to golden class. D'Angelo, third win of the season, championship leader. You said earlier that you before this that you kind of dominated, which I would agree. I didn't get the chance to watch all of it, but just quickly, we also had some DNFs there. Not as many as silver, but yeah. What is your takeaway as I guess the only golden class insight as your driver with Mercedes?
Yeah, I thought the race was very interesting, mainly because with all the DNFs that Gold did had, we didn't really have a lot of safety cars. Like we had just had yellow flags, and then I think there was one DNF under safety car, or no, it was C Rizzy DNF'd right after the safety car went in before I crossed the line, where everyone can start overtaking again, so another safety car didn't come out. So, but yeah, basically it was pretty weird because I was not expecting to kind of build a gap as early as I did and not let anyone kind of overtake me. So it was very strong for me. Tebow, unfortunately, last safety car he got caught out by my pit stop because the way the Mercedes pit is in the game, you have to do your turn in button like before the line on in Baku. So I had early turn in because I was downshifting and upshifting through the entry, so I couldn't get a perfect turn in. So that was just unfortunate for Tebow. And then he made contact with GT, and GT in turn made contact with Wayne, and so he picked up some points because of all the DNFs, but not as many as he definitely could have. But we're still in a good spot for Mercedes and the constructors.
Absolutely, and a little shout out to a Dirt Shark getting on P2. I see that he had a win taken away from him at Japan with the penalty he had post race, but nice to see him back on the podium. And GT claiming his first podium since his return, getting P3. Also forgot to mention, have to shout out my Alfa Romeo guys in silver. Camden got his first win of the season. Jabbar first podium of the season. I know they're gonna, if they listen back and I didn't mention at least something, they might be mad. So congrats for that. And yeah, but yeah. So good with Golden. And my one advice, D'Angelo, as your oh, I guess you don't need it, but I'll speak it, and you could take it if you like it. It's very crucial to keep this mindset early on in the championship because the entire grid will start to realize that you're the championship guy in this season.
They'll start fighting me harder.
No, they'll do the
Oh.
opposite. They're going to
Huh.
do the opposite because they see you coming behind and like, oh, just go. Honestly, it's a true mindset of the grid because the grid knows that, oh, you just won 3 of the 4 races.
You're gonna get by
You
me
have the
anyway, kind of
speed.
thing.
You're not in my league type of thing. You're a step ahead of me. It's not going to do me any good. So they'll kind of give you a little bit. Now for those who you're competing against, like Tebow,
Rockstar.
GTR, Rockstar, and a couple of Ferraris got any, they will put up a fight. But if you can keep putting this mental footnote, if you will, into their minds, they'll start to race you differently in my experience. So keep up the good work. We're already on round 5 of 14, but we'll gonna move to the platinum class now. Wasn't that a difficult race, professional?
Yeah, it was. It was a really long
Rain.
race. It felt really long. I think the endurance played a part, especially towards the latter part. For me, especially, just I lost various parts of my wing twice underneath the safety car. Um, so yeah, the endurance definitely played a part for me. I'm sure as it did for others as well. But I'm glad to be done with that race. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I saw the forecast and I saw in quality that it was looking like it was going to rain in the race. Pretty high certainty of it. And then I looked in the Discord or the YouTube chat of the stream, and I think it was Sir Charles, but I'm not entirely sure. But someone said that the forecast isn't always true, and that it could be a glitch, which would be terrible if you had to run a higher downforce setup because you know the rain's coming, then you can't change your setup and it's completely dry. Well, that's kind of BS. But so I thought, man, I just got screwed. So then we go to the race. I'm like, oh, it is raining, and I'm like, let's have some fun. I was saying it right on my stream. I'm like, let's have some fun because I'm like, man, these guys can't get around this place in the dry. This is just going to be a complete shit show. And man, it was such a difficult race because I was trying to get comfortable myself with the car. It was full wet for those who didn't watch. Started off full wet, then kind of the intermediate condition, and then we had a late safety car, but it was still light intermediate weather. But the forecast, if you read it, towards the end of the race, it was going to dry up, which it did for the final 2 laps. A lot of drivers pitted onto the softs, and that was the end of the race. But I mean, you had drivers going all over the place. I think I went from the back to the front, back, front, a couple of times. And the true mindset is, like you mentioned earlier, professional, is you just have to be in it, in that mindset of putting a few laps together, which I feel like we couldn't do because we always had a safety car right after. I feel like we didn't have 5 laps running at one time. It was always like 3 laps safety car, 2 laps VSC. It was just, it hurts your rhythm. And then the track conditions are constantly changing. So you might be comfortable then, but if you have a safety car, then you have to work in your tire temps, and then you're like, oh, now I could push more or less. I'm not too sure where the limit is, but it was a fun race. But you look towards the end of the race, and everyone who was survived, or I remember at one point it was me before the safety car came out. It was me, then it was GTR reserving on his birthday as well, I might add. He had a nice race going for him. And it was you, I think Professional was leading at that point. And I look, or maybe we were just all 3 together on track. And I'm like, man, look at us 3. We're like the most experienced guys on the grid. If you add all of our race starts between myself,
I'm
yourself,
thinking
and
the same
GTR.
thing. Yeah, GT, or it's like me, GT, and then you, because Silent was leading.
Okay, so yeah, so second, third,
I was thinking the same thing.
and I'm like, man, we're going through this whole entire difficult race, and it's like, man, honestly, we probably have
300
years.
300 race starts.
Oh yeah, something like that.
And I'm like, man, that's just good because we were just like, that's the mentality that we have as veteran drivers, and those who also survived as well. They have that mindset too, obviously. But it was a difficult race. But I mean, I remember when the safety car came out, we had the last safety car. We pitted, and I pitted right away for dry tires, but it was still raining. And those were the most difficult parts of the race, was that it was intermediate conditions, but like in the next few laps it's going to dry up, but you're under safety car, but your tire temps on the soft tire was super low, and there was just zero grip. Taz, or B-Tom, known on the stream, spun even under safety car, and it was like, man, we were so low, and I had like 8 seconds that I could be going quicker on my Delta, but I couldn't go that much quicker because I would have spun. So I was like just tippy toeing around the track because I was trying to beat you out of the pits.
Yeah, and like
and Verstappen too.
I spun and I damaged my wing trying to beat you out of the pit. So I had to pit again with last lap at the safety car. Finally, like barely got back to the pack, and then had 2 laps remaining to tried to go from P7, try to get as high as I could because I was P2. I was going to be like first or second when the safety car came in, but yeah, bended out of the pit exit. P7 to start, 2 laps to go, and I just had a lot of temp in the tires. I guess from I was able to like really push the lap that the safety car was coming in, but just had a lot of grip. And saw you struggling. GT went off the final lap on turn 3, and caught up to you substantially, and tried to pass you in the castle section. And I was going to try to just really maybe send it. I don't know, but I didn't want to take us both out, and just didn't have the straight line speed. You had a lot lower wings than I did, and even with the ERS, just couldn't get you. But yeah, the whole race, I was last place, I was first place, I was in the middle, 4 safety cars that entire race, and it was just kind of like a lottery. Just keep it clean, and the experience helped out, and got some important points for the championship. So,
Yeah, you're set P2, right?
Yeah.
Beat Tom ahead. I don't know by how many. If
That's
maybe
if
I could check here.
I think it's like 8 or so. And at one point, I thought Tasmanian Devil or Beaton was just going to get more points on me. And from early on in the race, I decided I really just needed to be smart and try to get as many points as possible. Not really think about what Taz or TJ were doing, and run my own race, stay out of trouble, and seemed to pay off. It seemed that they got in trouble a lot more, just with making mistakes. And
As in silent.
no, Taz and TJ just seemed like
Taz
they
and
weren't
TJ.
really. They were making a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, there was a few points where Taz had incident. I feel like was silent, and then
Mhm.
I don't know if it was with Forzan or for 2 separate incidents. They had a pit, or maybe they were just changing tires. I'm not too sure. I didn't see their races, but yeah, it was but the important thing is for him, he's stuck in no DNF, but there's just a lot of drivers that just don't have that mindset. And this was, I'm actually happy it didn't end up being. It was supposed to be full qualifying for Baku, but the platinum drivers love to you know within 1 hour of the race just
Not show
decline
up.
Kinda
and
dip
not show
out, yeah.
up. You have 2 weeks that you're going to be hitting yes, and then the last hour you hit no. It's kind of annoying.
Yeah, it seems to be
Um,
the case, unfortunately.
so we'll maybe pick another race that we can do. The full qualifying on. Maybe return it to Jeddah, or maybe scratch it entirely. But yeah, that was good thing it kind of wasn't, because that would have been a long, long, long race. Full
Can maybe put
qualifying
it
and
back
then.
at Silverstone, like maybe the next round. If we
Oh
get
yeah.
full grid, I think Silverstone would be pretty cool because first laps are pretty intense on that track. We're just all running really close together, so maybe grid position would be more important.
Yeah, maybe. Well, you guys, if you're platinum, let us know, and we'll show up too. We also had a few guys that just weird incidents where they couldn't show up or whatever the case, but you know, that's just how it happens. But
It is what it is.
it is what it is. So I think that. Any final thoughts? I think that's all I got. I ranted a few times here and there. I think that's all I had.
I just want to quickly commentate on the full qualifying. I know there was, myself included, 2 drivers in silver class hoping that full qualifying was also in silver class, but we found out that it was only platinum, and a few of us were a little disappointed, but I don't know if you guys have reasoning behind it being limited only to platinum, or that's just how it's been going for the last couple of seasons.
I mean, I could. You want to answer, or I'll answer? I guess I'll answer. Yeah, no, it's pretty much just like a platinum exclusive. So coming into this season, we have a few, uh, like races that multiple classes will take part in. Like later on, race 8 at Abu Dhabi will be the sprint week, with this new sprint qualifying race or whatever the game has implemented. So every class will do that at Abu Dhabi, but it's really just an incentive to try and push up towards platinum and be in those races, because you do get a few different races. You get the full qualifying. You get the 100% finale race. You also get the TCR Grand Prix, which is returning to Bahrain, which is a slightly different race format. I guess more so in the qualifying aspect of it. And yeah, it's just a little bit of an incentive. I always compare it to saying that, imagine if I give the NASCAR example, but you could do the IndyCar example as well. Imagine if the NASCAR Cup Series had the Daytona 500, and then they moved that to their Xfinity and Truck Series. It wouldn't mean as much. That's why it's a solo event for one division, and that's what the TCR Grand Prix is in that regard. And that's just that. And there's a lot of stories and races about that race, and we've been doing it a few seasons. I think this year it's our
I think it's
seventh.
6 or 7.
Yeah. So
Is it 6 or 7?
7. Yeah,
7
I would say
already?
7. Yeah.
Be my
And,
7th one. Well, I think 7th one.
Oh yeah.
6 or
I
7.
mean, we should do an episode solely on the TCR Grand Prix, and maybe
Okay.
talk a little bit about all that for those newer drivers like Speedy and others that
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool to do.
might not know what the TCR Grand Prix is, and maybe a little
We
bit
could
about
talk.
the history
Yeah,
there.
we could do like TCR GP, the All Star Race, like these special events, Sprint Race Weekend, kind of like maybe the special, like TCR special event podcast.
Ooh, yeah,
Be
let's
a good one.
We could
we
do
could
that.
slot that in.
We could do that for our mid-season break podcast after
Get
Monster.
some guests in here. Yeah,
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. So good suggestion, Speedy, or good question, I guess, Speedy.
yeah.
It inspired us.
And I have one more question, and it's about round 11 Bahrain. So next to it saying TCR GP, it says for silver and gold feature race. Does this mean the TCR GP will be a sprint race or something else?
You got. I want to do it. I want to say.
You go. Oh, go ahead, D'Angelo. Well,
Basi-
it is changed, but go ahead.
Yeah.
Let's see if you get it right. Go ahead.
So, well, the TCR GP, what it entails is it's basically full qualifying, but the qualifying sessions are 3 one-shot quali, 5-lap sprints. The bottom 5 drivers from each race are eliminated. It's basically Q1, Q2, and Q3, followed by a 50% race for the TCR GP, and that determines obviously the winner. And then there's also points for, I think it's the top 3 in each sprint.
Yeah.
The 5-lap sprint.
Doing good.
And then for the silver gold feature, it is two 25% races for one-shot quali, and the points are basically cut in half.
Yeah, although I don't know how I actually do have to look back at what we've said. I don't know professionals, but I think that we simplified. We kind of went away with the 25% race, possibly. I think it's going to be a very simplified quali session. So I think the word's on the street that it's only a one-shot quali, 5-lap race, and a 50% race rather than 2 25s. Because I think we thought that the sprint week kind of
would take that.
So in shorter terms, Formula One copied our style, and
Not wrong.
they copied everything, honestly.
Yeah, we're moving the sprint weekend because I think it was going to be Bahrain. That's what the future races were going to be for gold and silver, but we're moving that one to Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
So silver, gold, and platinum will all be sprint race weekend for Abu Dhabi, and Bahrain will be, like you said, it'll be like the one shot, the 5-lapper, and the 50% for silver, golden, and then the whole TCR Grand Prix format with what D'Angelo just explained, which was actually a pretty good explanation, if I don't say so myself.
Very
or
nice.
platinum.
You
Pretty
get you
spot
just
on
get
there.
3 rounds in the GP. So silver
Yeah.
and golden, they kind of get a sliver of the cake, a little bit of the whipped
A little
cream.
bit of a taste, like
Yeah.
a sample from a grocery store.
Yeah. So yeah, so
Grocery
that's kind
store
of.
analogy.
Well, it's true though. Get your samples.
It's not wrong, but I was just interested.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're ever that guy? Well, we talked about Taco Bell earlier, and we'll end it here. You go into the ice cream shop. Yeah, I'll have a sample of the vanilla. I'll have the sample of the strawberry. I'll have the
And then walk out.
Neapolitan.
all of them. Yep. Okay. I'll think about it. I'll come back, and then you don't come back.
Totally. Yeah. Good one.
Absolutely. All right. Well, this was a fun one. Thank you, Speedy Gunner, for joining us on the Racing Debrief for this episode.
Well, thank you for having me. It was, like I said at the beginning, a very fun experience to come do this. I've been bothering Seafreeze for, 3 weeks now? 4
More.
weeks?
Yeah, a little bit more. I think since the first episode, which a lot of people are, and I understand. We'll get you all on.
Eventually.
It was definitely fun to come on and, say my word about everything, and, there were definitely a few things, especially the, flag thing, where you basically impose this, purple flag, as Seafreeze called it, where I was thinking the exact same thing, and I was going to mention it. And Seafreeze got to mentioning it word for word before I did. And, it was definitely a fun experience to come on the podcast, and, there may be times where I come back and do this, but, it's definitely been an experience in a good way, and I thank you all for having me.
Absolutely. And for the future guests, I like to,
Take
do
the
my
mojo.
viewpoints. So you guys gotta know when to cut me off. But yeah, I guess great minds think alike. Although I don't know if that's surely copy paste, but nonetheless. And with that, make sure if you are new to follow Teacher on all social media platforms, and definitely join the TCR Discord server where we are the most active. Next week we are at Britain, and until then, thanks for listening.